We hate to say it, but it seems like the 2023 season will be another dominant season of Red Bull. While Ferrari still struggles with reliability issues and tire degradation, Mercedes struggles to find enough downforce. Our only hope so far seems to be Aston Martin, but what can we really expect from them? Even worse is that Red Bull now announced plans to bring upgrades to Australia and Baku. In this video, we dive deep into what upgrades Red Bull is planning on bringing and what they expect to gain from this. Without waiting any longer, let's start. Ever since the 2022 season started and the ground floor effects were introduced, it was evident that Red Bull understood the assignment better than everyone else. Although Ferrari was often the quicker car in terms of one-lap pace and even over a race, reliability issues and Red Bull managing to reduce the weight of the car made it clear that the Austrian team was the team to beat. Red Bull were one of the teams who didn't bounce on the main straights. Even with the new regulations, they still seem to have found a loophole to have the most aerodynamic car on the grid. This is in sharp contrast with the SF23 and W14, who still have issues. It just goes on to show what it means when you have a legendary senior in your team who studied the ground effect when he was just a junior. This may be one of the reasons why Mercedes is bringing back James Allison, the guy who was present in one of Mercedes' most dominant years in the sport, but that is a topic for another video. Red Bull has been notorious for its upgrading speed. Ironically, they didn't bring many updates to the first race of the season. As a matter of fact, they were on the bottom list of teams bringing upgrades to Bahrain. Before I will explain the upcoming upgrades, let's have a quick look at what happened in Bahrain in terms of updates. Let's start with the floor edge, and while the team had no primary reason to update it, the regulation change for the 2023 season enforced a geometry change from last year to raise the minimum height of the outboard edge. This is not a change that the team chose to pursue, nor was it beneficial to the car's performance, so the resulting geometry was aimed at minimizing the incurred loss, something that Red Bull's rivals were fiercely aiming at with the new technical regulations in 2023. Furthermore, the team went on to change the front wing, something that Ferrari and Mercedes have aimed at as one of the best ways to gain more downforce thanks to the tweaks to the end plates. Red Bull's primary reason to update the front wing was to release the local load of the car and gain performance, which has been done through a subtle evolution of the 2022 version of the item, partially to observe changes to the end plate regulations. Now that the team actually has the opportunity to evolve the wing, more load was derived overall without increasing the downstream consequences, which results in them gaining more downforce without suffering from increased drag. And last but not least is the Coke engine cover, which has proven to be a bit of a reliability concern for the team in the past. This was the main reason why the team opted for an evolution of this part, as they changed the radiator exit ducting, necessitating a revised top body shape. Red Bull had the opportunity to optimize the cooling from the data garnered in 2022. And with a changed layout along with the top body exit duct, the downstream consequences on the exit have been reduced, and the team is gaining more and more performance through it. Although these changes are barely visible with the naked eye, Red Bull understands them through the genius prism of Adrian Newey. Sure, Aston Martin has poached staff from Red Bull like Dan Fallows and around 120 engineers, but those people had to leave anyway due to the budget cap. Funny enough, and unfortunately for Mercedes and Ferrari, it seems like Aston Martin is the team that the Austrian squad is fearing the most, mostly because the staff that now works in Silverstone is the same one that worked in Milton Keynes just 12 months ago. So the intellectual knowledge can and will be transferred to the AMR23. With such a big lead over the others, you might wonder why Red Bull is not already focusing its resources on the 2023 car. Well, the last thing that you'd want in Formula One is to be competitive and to stop right there without moving a muscle. Remember what happened to Ferrari in 2022 when they decided to give up on developing the car and suddenly almost got caught by Mercedes for P3 in the Constructors' Championship? Although Red Bull is definitely the aerodynamic master out there, the future upgrades that are bound to be implemented on the RB19 are focused on gaining more downforce for Verstappen and Perez. In case you're wondering why the team needs so much downforce, you need to see the charts, in which Verstappen is able to brake later than everyone and accelerate earlier compared to anyone on the track when entering and exiting a corner. The downforce of the car allows Verstappen to enter the medium and high-speed corners with such a speed that the balance of the car isn't throwing him out of the track, something the Dutchman is utilizing perfectly by adding as much throttle as he can and dominating the rest of the field. So, Auto, Motor und Sport, one of the most renowned media outlets in the Formula One world, has reported that Red Bull plans to implement upgrades on the Australian and Azerbaijan GP, allowing their car to be even more competitive and making the pecking order even harder to shuffle. The report says that the RB19 of Verstappen and Perez will be mounted with small upgrades, but big enough to increase the gap with the rest of the grid. As the media wrote, "It gets worse for the competition. Red Bull will come with a small upgrade for the Australian GP and for the fourth race of the season in Baku with a significant upgrade for the car." Why do we think that the upgrades are going to absolutely annihilate the competition, even though they have been labeled as small ones? Well, according to Auto, Motor und Sport, Red Bull's top rivals, Ferrari and Mercedes, are yet to understand where the Austrian team gains all of its power and how they manage to be so good. During the season opener, Red Bull was competitive through all of the corners and on the straight. However, the tire wear didn't seem to blink, something with which every team out there struggled due to the abrasive surface of the asphalt. Now, the next race in Jeddah is definitely one that's up for grabs for Red Bull's rivals, especially Ferrari and Mercedes, now that it doesn't have as many downforce requiring corners and the surface of the track is one that their tires can definitely withstand more compared to Bahrain. After all, Jeddah is a new track implemented in the controversial 2021 season, and on the contrary, the asphalt in Bahrain hasn't been changed since 2004, which is something that not a single F1 tire wants to hear. The season started as everyone would have expected. Red Bull continued exactly where they left off. However, the first shakeup was predicted for the middle of the season or around Imola, where Mercedes will bring the new concept of their car and try to bring as much performance as they can in the rest of the season. One of the reasons why is because Red Bull's sporting penalty is supposed to hurt them severely, especially when the car upgrades are going to come and they would have to be tested in the aerodynamic facilities. Although Mercedes struggles a lot with the concept of their car, it's evident that they'll look upon those 17% extra time to spend in the wind tunnel compared to Red Bull in order to try and make the most of the W14's potential, with this car proving to be an even bigger challenge to overcome than the W13. Whether this will turn out to be the truth for Red Bull and whether they'll see their championship hopes crumble as the season goes by, that would be up to us to witness. As of now, we don't see any team challenging Verstappen and Perez, and even if there is a team that could mess up the order, we don't see the potential in Ferrari and Mercedes to bring their A-game to every race in 2023. It's definitely not the best thing for the 2023 season, as we all know how much the popularity of the sport dropped in the turbo hybrid era when Mercedes was the one leaving the opponents in the dust. Therefore, the last thing that a Formula One fan wants, even Red Bull wants, is a season that will have the first two places of the podiums all set and done, while the fight will be for P2 in the Constructors' Championship. With that in mind, what do you think about the new upgrades that Red Bull is about to introduce in 2023? Do you think that in Australia and in Baku, the team will prove that they are in a league of their own, like Russell and Wolff said, and leave everyone behind, just like Mercedes did from 2014 to 2020? Let us know in the comments below.